Welcome once again. I'm Robbie Gamble. I'm one of the festival organizers, and I'm really so nice to see. It's been a wonderful day of poetry so far, and I'm looking forward to another wonderful session. This year's festival is made possible by the generous support of our festival sponsors, the Brattleboro Community Television, Jenny Altschuler and Barry Green, Elizabeth Catlin, the Stepansky Family Trust, the Vermont Humanities Council, and Poets and Writers. We would also like to thank our advertisers, and we encourage you to support them. The festival is run entirely by volunteers, but has very real expenses, so we encourage you to make a donation at one of the donation boxes sometime this weekend, or you can use the QR code that's studded all over our literature, and to donate online through our website. We ask that you please take a moment now to turn off the ringer on your cell phone, but please do feel free to use your phone to take photos and share them with us on social media. So it's my great pleasure to introduce Dzvinia Orlowsky. Dzvinia is a Ukrainian American pushcart prize poet, translator, and founding editor of Four Way Books. She has authored 7 poetry collections with Carnegie Mellon University Press, including her most recent, Those Absences Now Closest. And also Ali Kinsella and Dzvinia's co-translations from the Ukrainian of Natalka Bilet-Serkovitz's Eccentric Days of Hope and Sorrow, a finalist for the 2022 Griffin International Poetry Prize and a winner of the 2021 AAUS Prize for Translation. Ali and Dzvinia received a 2024 NEA Translation Fellowship and were finalists for the 2025 the 2025 PEN America Literary Award for their translation of Halnia Kruk's Lost in Living. The poems in Dzvinia Orlowsky's Those Absences Now Closest are steeped in traumatic elegy, remembrances that bind the personal and the global, from long-lost relatives to the specter of a repeatedly plundered Ukrainian homeland, now battered anew in a fresh cycle of war. As a first-generation Ukrainian American, Orlowsky occupies a unique perch of witness, having seen firsthand the effects of the mid-20th century trauma that her parents bore with them to America. She now observes this new round of totalitarian violence, often through the lens of recent and contemporary Ukrainian literary voices that she has immersed herself in, to gain entry to a world we often gloss over in a blur of dreary news clips and headlines. In the poetic sequence titled The Disenchanted Desna, referring to a tributary of the Dnieper River, which runs through the Ukrainian heartland, stark images drawn from archetypal rural village settings fly off the page and out of the quotidian with startling Chagall-like trajectories. The poem War is a litany of casualties in increments of 100, prompted by a Google search. How many deaths must it take to be considered a war? Answer, 1,000. In other poems, she reins her focus into the personal, a harrowing and tender recounting of her father's final cancer-racked moments, a love letter to her sister carrying the realization that they are the last 2 remaining of their family of origin. The final result is a breathtaking range of poems, clear-eyed and fantastical, intimate and horrific, poems that will remain embedded deep in our consciousness. Please welcome Dzvinia Orlowsky.
Thank you, Robbie. Thank you, Tim. Thank you, everyone, for being here. It's really an honor, and I'm so happy to be reading with Albert, too. I look forward to your poems. Thank you, Robbie, for that introduction. That was very moving. I'm going to be reading mostly from my new book, Those Absences Now Closest, and I'll just mention that this is a photograph my father took of my sister, my mother, and me, and a close friend in Ohio. So my family is very much pulled into this book. But I'd like to begin the reading by honoring a Ukrainian voice, Halina Kruk, who very much, if she were here, would be part of that protest. The wars still go on. It's heartbreaking. Halina Kruk, and I'm happy to talk more about her after the reading, basically is mid-career Lviv, Western Ukrainian poet, and she is regarded today as one of the most powerful voices, poets writing in Ukraine today. I'll just do a shout out, Char de Nord, sitting back there. Thank you on Helena and mine and Allie's behalf for everything you've done to promote her work in the States as well. I will read the Ukrainian first, and then English. Носимося зі своїми мертвими, як діти. Поскладали їх на майдан, обступили колом на морожі, на снігу. Розгублені, ніби ніхто з нас досі не знав, що померти так просто. Кожен все ще надіється, що полежать і встануть. Бо що казати їхнім мамам, що казати їхнім дітям? Хто їм скаже про найгірше? Людина біжить насустріч кулі із дерев'яним щитом і гарячим серцем, із головою злиженому в шоломі, повному крові. Мамо, я в шапці, кричить у мертву трубку. Мамо, у нього надто тонка шапка, сичить куля. We carry our dead. We carry our dead like children, lay them out in the plaza and encircle them in the frost, the snow, bewildered, as if none of us yet knew it was so easy to die. Everyone still hopes they will lie there and then get up, for what should we tell their moms? What to tell their children? Who will tell them the worst? A person runs to meet a bullet with a wooden shield and a hot heart and a head in a ski helmet full of blood. Mom, I've got my hat on, he shouts into a dead phone. Mom, his hat is too thin, the bullet hisses. One more by Helena Kruk. And this poem, I'll just say briefly in context, is sort of a response poem to Pascal's notion that in every one of us, we have a God-sized hole in our souls that we spend our life trying to fill. And she kind of continues that conversation, but kind of re-envisions it through the more intimate human love. Чорна діра. Любов залишає у серці жінки діру розміром з чоловіка. Спершу мріяти, потім міряти, применшувати, прибільшувати, не договоряти, триматися подалі від краю. Боже, не слухай жінку закохану, жінку розчаровану, жінку покинуту. Жодній з них не слухай. Вони сама не розуміють, чого просять. Любов залишає у серці жінку діру розміром з іншу жінку, зяючу, порожнечу, лакуну, якої нічим не закласти, антиматерію, вибухову хвилю, молитву про помсту. Боже, не проходь мимо. Любов залишає у серці жінку діру розміром з Бога. Black hole. Love leaves a hole in a woman's heart the size of a man. Dream first, then measure, minimize, exaggerate, understate, stay far from the edge. God, don't listen to the woman in love, the disappointed woman, the abandoned woman. Don't listen to any of them. They themselves don't understand what they're asking. Love leaves a hole in the woman's heart the size of another woman, a gaping void, a lacuna that cannot be sealed. Antimatter, a blast wave, a prayer for revenge. God, don't walk on. Love leaves a hole in the woman's heart the size of God. Helena Kruk. I'm going to read a few from the sequence, which Robbie kindly referred to, from The Disenchanted Desna. It's actually based on a translation I did by the filmmaker and literary stylist Alexander Dovzhenko, who wrote a novella, which I'm in the process of translating with Ali Kinsella, called The Enchanted Desna. So this is just sort of a play on this by calling it The Disenchanted Desna. Now, for me, this poem is very much about Putin, but feel free to substitute any name, any name your heart desires. Desolate. He had no soul, only steam, no eyes, only 2 frying pans, no mouth, only a daub of red, no throat, only a chimney that choked him, no God, only a candle placed upside down. He had no voice, only drones, no skin, only a sheepskin turned inside out, no feet, only puddles in which dirt swirled, no conscience, only pigeons spying from above. He had no will, only a cracked watermelon, seeds instead of memories, no woods, only withered grass, no roar, only labored horses and buckling calves, no bread, only one bowed fruitless tree. He had no angels, only the din of buzzing bees. He had no road to cross, no country, only a stinging nettle, no sins, only a thunder of artillery, no soldiers, only tongues over fires, no children, only graveside flowers, no legs, though at times they ran like rivers of blood. Continuing. Right hand. He held in his right hand tender calves and dip-backed horses, a devil escaped from a circus prowling on the river bank. With his right hand he shut all dusky windows and wind-blown doors, commanded with a vigorous gesture that a 7th son be born, while spinsters swept all houses clean. He forbid his left hand from interfering with its menial work. When he raised his right hand, chickens burst out of their coops only to collapse, their feathers scattering among straw. Rabbits disappeared into tiny holes. The orange sunset tore itself on black branches, but worshippers called it beautiful, considered themselves saved. It's a sort of more folkloric one. It's called The Village Crow. The village crow knew everything, whose son fathered young partisans, guns like large broken wishbones pressed to their chests, which rooster crowed, "Get up," confusing death with daily rising, which neighbor's hatchet would outlive him. Water is the enemy. Some claimed the crow was older than the oldest oak. Others swore it was brought by the devil one year to act as interpreter for blasphemers, sleepwalkers, and arsonists. No one cared about angels anymore. The crow had special tricks. Before a hunter lifted his rifle, blasted the bird into a comet of feathers, it could bring down enough rain to spoil the hay. When it cawed, the lake grew quiet and clouds darkened the sky, covering the water surface. Fish presumed their days were numbered, hiding among swampy drapes. But even fishermen, before casting their lines, removed their hats, cried out in disbelief, "Does anyone recognize me?" Okay, shift here. I didn't think, well, actually knew so much time would pass and I'd still be kind of in this exact headspace watching news, only it's gotten worse and deeper. This is called breaking news. What breaks one person revives another. What breaks into silence breaks through to eternity. But what if heaven is bombed and clouds, no longer diaphanous, split like dried earth, crumble into dust, mortal as family? What war? The soil is well drained for peonies whose only passion is to be unforgettable red. The hummingbird moth wishes for clover, the skin on your ankle for a blade of grass to sweep against it. What war? The sky has plenty of room. Petitions buzz like bees or lift into kites if you run fast enough, pull hard against the winds. 7 months in, no one reports the bombings anymore. What war? Silence. Imagine that. Imagine 3 birds at night calling out to their mates, I made it, I'm still here. In the meantime, a woman lies trapped under the rubble of a 9-story building. Everyone's praying she's still alive. Prayer is hope. But what is hope other than guesswork? And guesswork, the surefire way not to get to heaven. Prayer for the heart. As long as bombs don't drop on those who fled, as long as one spare God still hovers above their beds, as long as cattle cars roll forward and do not stop, as long as grandmother's large ceramic vase doesn't drop from her hands at the train station. Why did she refuse to leave it behind, holding everyone up, splitting the family in 2? Those who boarded and those who stayed to gather the pieces, fit them back together, disappearing in clouds of steam. What holds us to the colorless burn of family who wake in another skin unhealed? My love letter poem to my sister. It's called Without Makeup. I didn't know your late in the day eyes, cool, easy, calm lake of tired eyes. You would say a nothing green, nothing anyone would notice. I'd never known you hadn't slept, face as bland as a manila envelope, without the smoke blue pencil drawn along your lower lids, silver pewter smudges running like paths of winter rain. I didn't know your eyes set the dinner table, made the bread rise, turned violets into jelly. I didn't know your eyes had candles. Maria, we are the only 2 left of our first family. Our parents, now streaks of bygone stories, even my mother's brightest shade of tangerine lipstick, can't bring back. Something has washed the mascara away. Vaseline rubbed your lashes. You call it tired, unmotivated, grouchy looking. Apologize for apologizing. But I'm just beginning to see spring grass under snow, deciding which green. Now close with 2 more. This one is a short one. To winter. Why not? Winter is coming. To winter. Love passes from prayer to a light rainfall, each drop anchorless and nameless. Where are the saints of wild grass, the ones I believed I could find if I brushed my hand through their green? I walk across the taut spaces that thread my rosary, bead after hard bead, the repeated lavender lifted to my lips, grateful for such moments when blood blossoms under the sun and sorrow finds its shade. Language of cold air, blank canvas of distance. Who's keeping count? And I'll close with the war poem that Robbie mentioned. I say there's going to be a reading one of these days that I don't close with this poem, but today's not that day. War. How many deaths must it take to be considered a war? 1,000 lives. But the first 100 are only fooling. They've saved their caboodles from drama class. Death makeup is a breeze. They clear their throats, step into the spotlight, center stage. A mother applauds. Outside, moonlight carves its solid world. The second 100 are children again. They run through fields of daisies, fingers interlocked, index fingers pointing, rat-a-tat-tat, we're safe. Migrative imagination, pretend machine guns, execute a pact. The third 100 drag their feet, lost, heavy with song. Song is healthy for the soul, but who will listen? Fearful neighbors slam their doors shut. Surely you understand, they whisper. The fourth 100 never vacate their apartments. They're still there, lying quiet in their beds, their bodies packed with prayers. A concrete city block disintegrates between earth and air. The fifth 100 simply refuse to die until they find their daughter's favorite stuffed bear, the one with black button blind eyes that keep her safe at night. The sixth 100 press their ears to a hollow wall. Who is shouting in the dark? Not everyone who hears voices is unwell. A plastic viewmaster, a last luxury to be held in their son's hands. The seventh 100 cry a creek, a stream, a river. The eighth 100 don't remember first words, don't hear last screams. Their mouths open like that of a toddler gasping for air. A living heart, here, the ninth 100 believe they are still warm inside, the way a burning forest believes it's a perfect metaphor for the spiritual world, even after its ash. 999 are missing one who got away. Praise be. Thank you.
Okay, so glad everybody's here. So good afternoon. I'm pleased, let me try that again. I'm so pleased to welcome poet and essayist Albert Abonado. Albert is the author of two collections, Jaw and Field Guide for Accidents, a National Poetry Series selection. He holds an MFA from the Bennington Writing Seminars and has received fellowships for poetry from the New York Foundation for the Arts and the National Endowment for the Arts. Albert lives and teaches at SUNY Geneseo and Finger Lakes Community College, where he is the managing editor of the Bear Hill Review. He is the artist in residence at SUNY Oswego. He is the former director of adult programs at Writers and Books. His work has appeared in numerous journals, including Bennington Review, Boston Review, Colorado Review, the Laurel Review, The Margins, Tri-Quarterly, Waxing, Zone 3, and others. Field Guide for Accidents explores the experiences of difference and harmony, of inherited pain and fresh laceration. The poems in this collection are angry, funny, heartbreaking, hopeful, circumspect, and contemplative. Albert's work resides in a liminal space between formal and informal, between languages and the cultures they define, between identity and belonging. These poems are alert, observant, suspended between tension and resolution. Their poignancy is in their groundedness. Here are ideas, feelings, experiences rendered in surgically selected hard nouns and verbs, chisel-edged, frangible adjectives, palpable, smelly subjects, ordered into utterances that tremble, eternally bruisable, and impossibly tender. Albert?
It's always such a gift to have someone read you so carefully and thoughtfully, so thank you for that, Emily. Thank you also to everyone who's here. Thank you to everyone who was out there as well. Thank you to Tim. Thank you to Sandy, is that right? for all the other volunteers who put this amazing festival together. I really appreciate being invited to be a part of it. Thank you to Dzvinia for that beautiful, tender, and wise reading. So thank you so much for that. I'm mostly going to read from this collection from Field Guide for Accidents. I don't know what else to say about it. So, oh wait, let me put the timer up because I like to be. What is that? I don't even know what that is. All right. From the trees full of birdsong comes unripe fruit, after Rick Barrett. How I start a prayer, which with the same hand I use to lift food to my mouth, I draw a line down to my navel, pulling a zipper or curtain string to reveal the small wolf in my belly, the one I feed fat and vinegar. This is also how I pray. At 11, I leapt off the roof of my house. It was autumn, and everything that surrounded me collapsed back into the dirt. I wanted to practice my falling, feel the earth bend beneath my arrival, convinced I would not break. When my mother prays in her garden after the surgery on her arm and neck, I listen to her bones grind beneath her skin. She plants tulips, brushes a root from her hair, slices for dinner that evening the garlic and onions she will saute in a wok with ground beef. And this too is a prayer. My father, rolling up his sleeve to reveal the long scar on his arm to a room full of strangers at the garage where they kept the wreckage of his car. A prayer about the flesh around a knuckle and the alloys the body will not reject. By prayer, I mean I read the same poem over and over until my hair becomes sloppy with poem. That I eat it slowly until it coats my mouth. All my prayers begin with hunger, a prayer in the shape of cold fried chicken at my uncle's wake, and the blood stew I fail to replicate. My wife wants to know why I reduce my poems to something that fits in my mouth. I don't tell her I buried my relatives in my throat, that my prayers belong to other voices. When I pray, I can't hear my acid reflux gurgle, but the trees full of birdsong, the tires hiss as they pass over a wet road. This is a prayer full of rain and fog, weather soaked through my old shoes, the thin fabric that contains the storm beneath my feet. If by prayer, we also mean the stories that we did not know came before us, then this is also a prayer. My father stepping away while they lowered his father into the ground as we tossed white flowers onto his coffin. The hour in which my brothers and I turned to one another and asked, where did he go? What is he doing now? In the Philippines, among Filipinos, there is a practice that if you are in the presence of an elder or a religious figure, a priest or something, that you are to receive a blessing. And this practice is known as mano po. And to receive this blessing, you take the back of their hand and you press it against your forehead. Many years back, I remember there's like a little party, a little gathering, and someone brought their son over to me to receive such a blessing. And I was thinking to myself, one, I'm not old. Why are you doing this to me? And two, there's nothing in my life that I should be blessing you with. So this poem was kind of a response to that. This is Mano. To the young boy who raises my wrist to his forehead, I apologize for the blessing I cannot provide. Forgive me for what my hands forgot. Scales on the piano, phone numbers of old homes, the honeybee crawling through my fingers before it stung me. I do not carry around my years, but shed them like a husk. Your hands may also betray you one day. Linger on a surface waiting for a memory to flood your muscles. The hours are a syrup you poured into your skin, the sweetness behind your snap. I once lifted my grandfather's wrist like this, to my forehead, after a stroke stripped him of his English, after he whistled into the evening while he plucked the hairs from his chin. If I perform a gesture enough times, it becomes a holy reflex. I pressed his heat and weight into mine until the air thickened to a silt between our palms. Once, he held up to my face a bird he trapped. Once, I held a bird for too long. It stopped singing. One of the worst things, it's not the worst thing, but it's not a thing that I always enjoy, is a lot of my poems are based around my family, are written about my family. And I remember this one time, my mom had read some poems from my first book, and she started reading them in front of me and started offering her response to those poems. And it was such an uncomfortable, like, I have to explain myself. I'm like, I don't want to be accountable. So now I don't tell her things. But anyway, and here's such a poem, Outer Banks. I have a poem that starts like this. My mother came back as a haunted boat. I spend most of the poem trying to decide if I should escape the boat, if I should forgive my mother, or if I am the one who needs to be forgiven. The poem ends when the boat sinks, becomes a new reef. It ends when I visit my haunted boat mother to catalog the eels and crabs, the mollusks under the hull. I even swim with the sharks and feed them shrimp. I put this poem away, call my mother on her birthday. I don't tell her about the haunted boat in my poem or the slow flood that overwhelmed her. I don't tell her where the boat sank. It needed to be someplace I could still reach, where I could practice holding my breath, where the light could penetrate glass underwater. Anyway, it is her birthday, and she tells me I should donate her body to science when she dies, whisked away to a room where science can do what science does with the dead, until they reduce her to ash, which is the economical thing to do. All she wants, she says, is a light dinner, maybe a few prayers said in her memory. We could talk about her recipes. But I have more questions, like, what about a resurrection? And how does a poem come to this? Rival. Okay, we're good. My brother and I like to play the game, I got your nose. I would take his nose, and he would take mine. Once, I lost his nose and pretended this was a new phase of the game. He kept asking for his nose, and I kept promising to return it. Our relationship went on like this for years. When I found his nose, he was already dead. I felt terrible because the nose had nowhere to go. Now I keep it in my shirt pocket next to my birthstone as a tribute to my grief. I moisturize the nose, maintain its healthy pores, salicylic acid wash, activated charcoal strips. Each night, I read the collected stories of Gogol to the nose. I hold it up to the light. We make shadow puppets, mostly birds. When we are both lonely, I stick a finger inside the nose. I try to make it sneeze. Oh, that's all right. Yeah, okay, we're good. So my family has a blueberry farm over in the Finger Lakes. You're all invited to go to, by the way. And one of the common things that I often have to talk about, or people ask me about, is like, do you ever see bears in the fields? Do you ever see any bears? And this is the first year we've ever actually seen a bear wandering around. For the most part, they know to stay out of the way. But I always worry, especially late at night when I'm walking around, how am I going to react when I see a bear? What am I going to do? So this next poem is a little, I guess, meditation on that. This is The Bears Never Talk About Winter. You don't see the bears, but know they are there. How could they not be? America has so much to offer: honey and blueberries, overripe squash, rabbits. According to your neighbors, they come for teriyaki sauce. They do not knock before they pry open the refrigerator door or push their faces into the cabinets looking for something sweet. After, ants or flies come to clean their delicate faces while they sleep. Someone came with pictures of bear shit they found in a patch of milkweed. Your mother nodded, said yes, obviously, that is evidence that something did not leave our fields hungry, that you must be prepared to diagnose any encounter. Know the difference between the brown or black bear before you cover your neck or retrace your steps. This is how you play dead. Fold your arms across your chest. Conceal your pupils. Death is a performance. Make space for the other ghosts. Repeat the last question your grandmother asked. Why do those children laugh? You may be tempted to nap while you wait for the dangers to pass, but you cannot. This is not the right time. You are about to become a remarkable story. I like that. I like that approval. That actually. Tiny applause from the back is my favorite kind. As someone who teaches creative writing, I'm always careful not to be overly prescriptive in the kind of advice that I offer to students, mostly because I've heard some pieces of advice that I've often found myself pushing against. And one of those pieces of advice I've heard before is like, you can't use certain words. There's certain words you can't use in poems. That there's too much history, weight, whatever for that. And one of those words being blood. You should avoid using blood in a poem. But I like to fill my poems with blood, so here's me pushing against that. This is advice for using blood in a poem. If someone suggests you use words besides blood in your poems, make it part of a recipe. Try dinuguan, for example. Dinuguan is a Filipino blood stew, by the way. Make your blood impossible to avoid. Another name for this dish is chocolate meat, the name your aunts used to hide from you the fact you were eating pork blood with your rice. Other ingredients may include garlic, onions, liver, pork belly, dried bay leaf, vinegar, chicken stock, etc. Say you know the difference between blood and sweetness. Say you hate the taste of liver. Think of the blood in your poem as a lie. Say this is also your blood. The Spanish explorer Miguel Lopez de Legazpi and the Datu Sikatuna, who poured blood from their left arms into the same cup, mixed it with wine before drinking. Make a sculpture for the promises you have made with blood that belonged to someone else. Put it on an island you have never visited and encourage others to see it. Dream about a volcano and an earthquake, about the gunfire, the day they carried your grandfather to the cemetery after he cracked his skull on the bathroom floor, about the hair of your parents, sticky with blood, the glass beneath their skin, the scabs on their lips. When you came to retrieve their luggage, their sandy fishing gear, from the wreckage of their car, you found the bloodstains on the exposed airbags, the dashboard, the jacket, wet with rainwater wedged between the seats. Consider the insects that gathered around all the blood you would not touch. Count the number of times this blood appears. When you close your eyes, what is the color of your blood? No cheating. Okay, we're good. I think the only thing you really need to know about this poem, I make a reference to something called the carabao, which is a water buffalo you'd find in the Philippines or parts of Southeast Asia. On the history of the line. On this line, a herd of carabao. On this line, a moon ascends over a volcano. On this line, a flag declares, "Welcome to the empire." All my best lines are stolen from an empire. On this line, a fleet visited and burned the towns closest to the water. On this line, the smell of hair on fire. This was just the beginning of negotiations. On this line, soldiers uncover a pine box among ruins. They open the pine box and welcome the small wooden boy inside. On this line, we give the boy a name, Santo Niño. On this line, we give the boy a basilica. On this line, we dip the boy into the river. On this line, the boy lives in a corner of our house. On this line, my brothers and I complain about his thin smile. On this line, we ask the boy to blink for us. On this line, we ask him to forgive us. On this line, the boy visits us before we sleep. On this line, we pray for the unburnt. On this line, we pray for the unexploded devices. The line breaks when my brothers fall asleep curled on the floor like rosaries. The line breaks whenever I eat dairy against my better judgment. I'm always very careful before readings. The line breaks when I fart in public. The line breaks where a mouse with its head caught in a trap refused to die and rattled all morning behind a stove. The line breaks when I collapse the head of the mouse with a broom. The line broke when my mother asked me to moisten her dry lips in the hospital, and I did not know how. It broke when the hospital asked for insurance information, and I could not provide it. Yeah. It broke when my mother asked me to shave my father's face, and I did not want to cut his skin. It broke when my mother refused my hand because she did not need it to cross the ice. It broke when my father fell asleep in the seat next to me as I drove home, his jaw shiny and slack. The line breaks if I do not update my Facebook status. The line breaks whenever a picture I post on Instagram only receives 3 likes. The line breaks when whiteness says, "I forget you are even Asian sometimes." The line breaks when whiteness says, "You are not the kind of Asian who just hangs out with other Asians." The line breaks when whiteness says, "I did charity work in the Philippines. I probably know more about being Filipino than you do." Isn't that fucked up? The line breaks because I got the shits swallowing whiteness. All my lines end in doubt and leave enough space at the end for prayer. Forgive the line that stains the fingertips. Forgive the line that does not admit what it stole from its parents. Forgive the line that does not clear its browser history. Forgive the line that dissolves before the sentence ends. Forgive the line that fell asleep while FaceTiming. When it does this, I love to watch it breathe. Oh, this is my last poem. That was fast. Oh, okay. Well, no, I mean, one more poem, sorry. Like, this is my last poem. Wow, that was confusing. I am so sorry. I got one more. I got one more poem for you. A pile of poems is called a negation. One poem on top of another poem stacked on top of that. like the terrible architecture of a hamburger or an ugly sub, until they obscure the clouds, until they disrupt the migration of birds. I call out to the poems at the very top and ask them what they see. The poems tell me an ocean on the rise. They tell me circus elephants, the bald spot on my head, as if my scalp is a fleshy hole into which my hair disappears. The poems on the top want to come down. The poems on the bottom want to climb up. No, you can't, I say. You live in a delicate ecosystem. The poems become noisy and sweaty. They gossip and swear on the dead, a hive I stare into for too long that makes me dizzy. I start to think I am a cloud, so I walk away. I get lost, walking through a neighborhood I have never seen. One house still has its Halloween decorations up. A bright orange skeleton hangs by the door, patiently waiting for the leaves to turn gold. I invite the skeleton to become a poem. You have so much potential, I promise. I have made similar promises before, but this time I do not lie. I am serious. We could be good together. We don't have to be better than this, but we could be. Thanks, everyone.